Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Monday, August the 25th. Happy roster cut day, roster reaper day to all of you involved. I guess technically roster reaper day is tomorrow, but you've seen cuts around the league at this point, and the Titans made 16 cuts today. Not all of the names that we expect to see, and I do say expect to see, present tense, were on today's list of roster cuts, which means a couple of different things. Specifically, one of those names, Xavier Restrepo, that many of you have been curious about, and understandably so. He's one of the more interesting and compelling storylines, which I grant you, on the Titans roster at this point in time. But there are things that have to be acknowledged about how realistic it is for him to, one, make it onto an initial 53-man roster here, versus what is the more likely trajectory for a guy like Xavier Restrepo or Josh Wiley or Blake Hance or any of the other fringe roster kind of guys that you're looking at here after the first wave of cuts, because that's just what today is. It's a first wave of cuts at this point in time, and we are going to work our way through the guys whose names were called, unfortunately, and to talk about guys who, like I said, there's nothing wrong with you guys rooting for Xavier Restrepo, but I do think it's important to also have realistic conversations around guys like that, like Bork, who is, who's very quick to put in the comment section, "Wow, Buck, Restrepo's still on the roster. How does it feel to be so wrong? Please, for the love of God, understand this is sarcasm." I wouldn't, unless you put that in parentheses. And listen, on stuff like this, I would be so happy to be wrong, because he's a good person. Like, there's nothing wrong with rooting for good people to try and prolong their NFL dream. But I'm going to tell you why I don't think I'm going to be wrong, at least in the conventional sense with him specifically. And we can talk about a couple of different things here, because there's names who were not called today or who were not announced today that will not be on the 53-man roster. And whether that's, again, the initial 53 or a 53-man roster down the road, because basically spots between 46 and 53 are up for grabs on a day-to-day basis, especially when you're talking about a team with the number one claim in the waiver order. So we will discuss these things at length together. Boondock Boys Golf, which is an interesting name, says, "Hooray, Borgonzi has a brain." Well, okay, but when we get on here tomorrow night, we're talking about him being waived with an intention of trying to sneak him through the practice squad. I do think that, you need to keep the rationale in mind on why a guy like Mason Kinsey may be a more viable rosterable player. I don't think either of them are going to be on the initial 53, but we can talk about a couple of these things. And you guys are welcome to have your opinion and ask your questions, and we'll work our way through that process here this evening. Before we do that, need you guys to share the broadcast around. You know how to do that: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, wherever you are spending your precious and valuable time with us. I think there's a lot of things that it comes to that there's a lot of things to discuss basically tonight, and there's a lot of different opinions flying around, especially with Hendon Hooker's release today. There's a lot of different strong opinions coming out of the state of Tennessee today, which is crazy. But I also get the emotional attachment there, even if I'm confused by saying, do you guys not watch some of these players and understand the reason why they're not out there? Anyway, we will work our way through these things. Share the broadcast around Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch in the comment section. Make sure that you text the link to a friend if you're so inclined, like the video if you're hanging out with us on YouTube or on Twitch. I'm also taking recommendations for Munich. I got bullied into booking a last-minute trip to Munich this afternoon. I'm going to fly out on Friday and come back on Monday. I guess a quick turnaround, but looking forward to that. The only time I've ever been to Munich, Germany is I got stuck in the airport there a couple of years ago trying to get to Egypt. That was in 2021, post-COVID. Where I did not have the proper vaccination situation I had the proper vaccination situation for Europe, but apparently not for Africa, where I was trying to go to, which I didn't think that Africa was going to be more stringent than Europe was, but either way. Recommendations for Munich in the chat, if you would be so kind. We would appreciate your participation there as well. Once you've shared the show around, more y'all will trickle in, and we'll keep this thing rolling. That also, by the way, means that there's going to be an adjusted primetime schedule next week because I will be out of town with a couple of different things that we've got going on. In fact, a Titans fan is the reason that I'm going to Munich, Germany, which is not what I had on my bingo card today. Either way, share the broadcast. Let's get it started. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Monday night, August the 25th. I'm your host, Buck Rising, and I'm happy to have you as always, and I'm proud as always to be presented to you by the wonderful people at True Math Fitness in the Gulch. Go to truemathfitness.com for your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. truemathfitness.com for more details and how you get the best workout in Middle Tennessee. By Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Online at tworiversford.com. Quality American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service are what they offer you. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet. Online, like I mentioned, at tworiversford.com for more details. Ario, again, I've probably been saying that wrong. So I think I've said that name 17 different ways in the 6 years that we've been doing the primetime show, and I do appreciate how frequent you're here hanging out with us. Either way, says, I'm starting to sense Buck is slowly becoming a Titans fan. I don't think that's, I wouldn't bet on it. As long as I'm covering this team, and even after the fact, I think you spend too much time. It's like being in a relationship that you know is probably not going to end in something more commitment driven. Like you just spend too much time around one thing to actually want to spend the rest of your life with one thing. That's how I feel about the Tennessee Titans. Like I just know too much at this point in my life, which is what makes some of y'all sickos. And I appreciate and respect the fact that you all know as much as you do and continue to support this thing despite it letting you down at nearly every turn. But you're not going to get me. Josh says, Buck knows too much to be a fan. I think you're spot on. I think I've decided to root for the Buccaneers this season. I really like the Bucs. I really like their roster, not just because we were down there for joint training camp practice, but I think they're fun. And I think that's probably one of the most underrated, if not the most underrated football program in the NFL this year. It's either that or just for the emotional drain that the Ravens caused Robert Walsh just for the sake of keeping the radio show on the rails. I may continue to support Robert in his Ravens fandom. But yeah, I forgot Zach Bingham's a Buccaneers fan, just like Zach, says Jared Stillman's brother. That's right. I always forget that Zach is a Bucs fan, and I can't remember why. I'm sure I knew at some point in my life when we were still doing shows together. Is Zach still doing the morning show in any capacity? I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head. As a matter of fact, I know he's very, very busy doing CEO type of things for A to Z Sports now, which is cool. Eric Alonso says, cheer for your Colts. Well, they've never been my Colts. And sure as hell, you're not going to get me to attach any level of emotional interest in Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. No, I'm a front runner, baby. I root for whoever I enjoy, and I really enjoy watching the Bucs. So anyway, let's keep it moving with the Titans roster cuts. There were 16 cuts made today, and one of them that a lot of Titans fans were interested in was Xavier Restrepo, but he was not one of the players that was waived, at least today. So let me give you the list, and we'll talk about it together, and we'll see. The first question that we would ask you guys is your Two Rivers Ford take. Were there any surprises in the initial wave of Titans roster cuts? Let me know on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch in the comment section if you would be so kind. I will read you the full list of 16 names that were waived, released, or waived injured today. So Joshua Bledsoe, let's start with the defensive backs. A lot of DBs that they got rid of. Joshua Bledsoe, Jamari Harris, Jalen Kimber, Clarence Lewis, Davion Ross, Julius Woods. So that's 7 defensive backs that they waived. Then we get into the defensive line group. TJ Smith, and Josiah Bronson. Some of these players I haven't even heard of. Also, Desmond Evans, who was an edge guy / defensive end. He wasn't going to make it very far. He looked like an NFL player, but it's like Teron Davenport says, you got to go see the Wizard to get some heart. That's the biggest issue for Desmond Evans, who was every bit the size of an NFL player, but not necessarily the drive that you are looking for at this point in time. There may not be any surprises on this list to you guys. What may be more surprising is that some of the names that were not called in this initial wave. But again, this is just the first day of their cuts. There will be another wave of cuts and transactions tomorrow. So those are the defensive linemen. And then Joe Gaziano was outright released. He's a vested veteran, which means that he is not subject to the waiver claim process. Then we make our way to the linebackers. Amari Burney, who was terrible. And he is the only linebacker that was listed in the initial wave of cuts. He was waived today. Let's see. Wide receivers. Jaquan Jackson, who we knew was as pre-cut as anybody on the roster. TJ Sheffield. And then waived injured was Matt Landers, the wide receiver from Arkansas, who looked interesting as a player, but never really got an opportunity. He's been dealing with injury, and so they place him on the waived injured list. And then the last two are two offensive linemen, Arlington Hambright and Sam Mustipher, a guard and a backup center, which means that Corey Levin obviously is the backup center who can also play guard. He has great versatility there. So those are the 16 names that were outright waived, released, or waived injured. One player waived injured, 3 players released, and the rest were subject to the waiver claim process. And again, it's a reminder, those are just today's guys who make the initial 53. Like once we get past Tuesday's deadline, that doesn't mean that players 47 through 53 are still safe, right? There are a couple of different things here that will continue to be churned because the Titans, have the number 1 waiver claim. So guys who make the initial roster are still not safe with a team that has that number 1 waiver claim spot. There's really no surprises there at this point in time. Josh asks the question because a lot of you guys are invested, right, wrong, or indifferent, whether you're rooting for him. Some of you are just tired of hearing about him, and now it seems like you're to the point where you're rooting against him. Xavier Restrepo, I think that, like I said, it's a really cool story that you would have loved to seen succeed. But he is likely to be waived. Now, I don't know definitively that he will be waived, but more likely than not. And if I'm wrong, obviously we'll do a prime. I'll be with you tomorrow on primetime. Easton's going to take Thursday for me since I wanted the opportunity to react to roster cuts. So I will do tomorrow's show to react to the initial 53-man roster with you, and then we'll talk about what we still think is subject to change. Restrepo is most likely to be waived. And should he be waived, then teams will have the opportunity to claim him off the waiver process. You then go through the waiver process. If Xavier Restrepo were to clear waivers, then they would like to put him on the practice squad. Or they could put him on the practice squad if they were interested in. And I do think that there is some level of interest in putting Xavier Restrepo on that practice squad. I also think, a guy like Mason Kinsey is somebody that would be a practice squad player again, given the circumstance that he has. Josh says, I would have thought at least his connection with Cam would have translated, but it's the NFL, not college. Yeah, and he's just so slow. Like, he's just very slow. It doesn't have to be, like, I'm sure if he ran a 40 right now, more healthy than he was at his pro day, that it would be better than a 4.8. But that doesn't make him, he's built like Steve Smith, but Steve Smith ran a 4.3. You know what I'm saying? And straight line speed isn't the end all be all, but he's not physically a big player. He is not somebody that would be able to compete at contested catches, though he did have a really tough contested catch in traffic, more in traffic than a contested catch if you want to parse those things. Like, he didn't go up and get a ball above a defensive back, for example. He was thrown a ball between 2 defenders, got crunched, hung on to it. And listen, the best quality that he has is he'll catch just about damn everything that you throw at him. But there are some things, there are some physical limitations to him that are just that are suspect. That's really, really all it is. So sometimes that stuff is players are able to overcome it. It doesn't mean, by the way, that should he be waived and should he end up somewhere else, if he's claimed, then the NFL dream for Xavier Restrepo lives on. If he's not claimed and he ends up on the practice squad here, the NFL dream for Xavier Restrepo lives on. So it's not the end of his career if he doesn't make the initial 53. Now, is there a world in which he could make the 53? Yeah, you have to leave yourself open to that possibility, because if they are high enough on them, and I think they've kept their cards pretty close to the vest here about this, if they are high enough on Xavier Restrepo, then they could put him on the 53, get him through the initial round of waiver claims, and wait until later in the week to waive him, allow the claim process to take place, have a better percentage chance that he would not be claimed because teams would have filled out their needs based on the waiver claim order. If a team wanted him badly enough, sure, they could pick him up, but they would have to add him to the active roster. That's the thing about Xavier Restrepo that makes him an interesting case study here. Any team that would claim him would have to put him on the active roster. And I don't know. I'm sure there is a team that would do that, but I don't know at what cost, right? Like, who is a team going to waive for Xavier Restrepo to put him on the 53? That's really the sticking point here. Like I said, is there a single team of 31 other teams that would do it? Probably so. But I have a hard time determining whom that team or which team that might actually be. So your Two Rivers Ford take is, were there any surprises with the initial wave of cuts today? It's your Two Rivers Ford take. It's made possible by the South's most trusted Ford dealer, online at tworiversford.com. Quality American-made Ford vehicles, award-winning customer service. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, or online, like I mentioned, just 7 miles east of Nashville International Airport. If you want to visit them on the lot, go check out all of their cool vehicles. There was a beautiful clay-colored Bronco, I think it's a Badlands model. And I'd never considered the idea of a clay-colored vehicle, but it was really, really cool. Nasty. It was tough for me to not leave my Ford Explorer at the lot with them and take the Bronco home with me. I still might. I haven't decided yet. But either way, if you're like me and you love Fords and you love quality American-made Ford vehicles and you love customer service that is award-winning, then you'll love Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet. Like I said, online, tworiversford.com. All right. So no surprises necessarily. Brandon Casey says the bigger surprise was how many times I heard Ross's voice today. Yes, did the roster updates make it to the podcast, Robert? Because I know sometimes when we play audio, that does not necessarily come through on the podcast.
Yes. So when I looked at the audio, there was a noticeable gap missing a couple times. So I went in, replaced those.
Did you really?
Well, yeah. Anytime I have a good idea, I'm going to make sure that it's put at the front of the line.
I'm begging you to put Cam Ward press conferences in there. You won't do that. You'll put Ross's damn updates in there.
Oh, I put the press conferences in there as soon as you asked me to.
Well, I do appreciate that as well. The audience appreciates that anyway. So the roster updates did make the podcast for those of you who did not get to hear the stupidity that we were operating with today and announcing the roster cuts via Ross Johnston's mouth breathing voice. Either way.
Here, wait. I'll let you play one. I'll give you the Desmond Evans one.
All right.
Just so people have an example.
Did we get that live on the show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I didn't remember Desmond Evans being on the show. Anyway.
All right. So here was an example of one of the roster updates.
More Titans news as sources tell me that the team is releasing UDFA edge rusher Desmond Evans. That is right, Desmond Evans.
He was like a damn when you're missing in the store and they're like, Can Ross Johnston come to the front? Your mother is looking for you. Desmond Evans? Yes, you have been released from your dream job. Desmond Evans. Get the hell out of the...
Yeah, that sounds about right. So more roster updates tomorrow as we work our way through the remainder of the Titans roster cuts. It's so stupid, but it was one of Bert's funnier ideas. It's probably the only funny idea that Bert's ever had, as far as I'm concerned. concerned, but baby steps. Anyway, Xavier Restrepo making it through the initial wave. Maybe not a surprise necessarily, but I do think a lot of us do expect to hear his name at some point associated with the Titans and waivers.
Yes, sir, no doubt. I mean, 5 o'clock in the morning, every single morning, we're watching film, so it's like we never left,
Oh, really?
Yes, sir.
That's when you're in the building at 5?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is that what you did at Miami?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
5 a.m.?
Every single day. Yes, sir.
Wow.
Does having him here give you a sense of comfortability as you go throughout OTAs?
I mean, I'm never, comfortable, I mean, there's really, really good guys on the team, so in order to stay around, you have to, impress, and you have to come in this building and work hard every day, because you could be here one day and you can't the next day, so again, I'm just super glad for the opportunity to be here in Nashville and just ready to work hard.
How many guys in the building at 5?
It's a couple of us. It's so far right now, it's me, Cam, Gunnar Helm, Alec, Ayo Manor, and Jameer.
It's a good sign for the future, I guess.
Yes,
All
sir.
the rookies in
No,
there, right?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Who was the last
Thank
one?
you.
Chim.
He said Jameer, and I think Chimray DK confused us a little bit. So I think that was going back to like mandatory minicamp. It was during May, so it might have been even rookie minicamp at that point in time. So obviously early on in the process. And listen, there is nothing wrong with rooting for Xavier Restrepo. I feel like every time we are asked questions about them and about him, and people like me who are tasked with answering questions for you guys, I'd be lying if I didn't say I was tired of answering the same Xavier Restrepo questions. But that's not an indictment of him. It's just it's a really tough scenario for people to wrap their heads around. But like, if the NFL was the Disney Channel, then Xavier Restrepo would be on the 53-man roster, and Shedeur Sanders would be the starting quarterback of the Browns, and all these different things, right, that have fun elements to them but aren't realistic based on actual football. The NFL's cold that way. And unfortunately, just because you're a good story, you can have a brief stint of fandom on Hard Knocks or something like that. Like, there are good stories to tell, but it's just not something that I think that you can look at that way and say, well, yeah, he deserves to be here, because he doesn't. He doesn't deserve to be here based on what he provides on the football field. There's nothing wrong, though, with looking at him and saying he works hard, he grinds, he does all of the things that you want a player in his situation to do, and it still at the end of the day may not be good, right? That's just kind of what it is. I think that there's a lot of different things that people struggle with that way, and that's okay. But it doesn't remove us from the reality of the situation. Now, could we be back here tomorrow night and be talking about Xavier Restrepo on the 53-man roster, on the initial 53-man roster? You don't close the door to any possibility, because if they don't think he'll make it through on waivers, and they think there's a better chance that they roster him on the initial 53, waive him later, and then try and get him through the waiver claim process later, that shit happens all the time. But they would have to think very highly of him that way. They would have to be very confident, or they would have to be very worried that another NFL team would scoop him off of waivers and put him on the 53. I would be surprised by it. Can you say it would never in a million years happen? No. You have to leave yourself at least slightly open to any level of possibility when it comes to how teams make their decisions this way. There will be some surprises. If Bryce Oliver, for example, ends up on the waiver wire and people freak the hell out and they say, what are they doing? How could they be so stupid? Bryce Oliver is a good offensive player and a good skill position, or a good special teams player. But they may think differently about a certain scenario and look at Bryce Oliver and be like, yeah, there's some promise there, but this is not the right place, right time. Like, those things happen. It was shocking that they kept 5 tight ends on the active roster at this point in time. or in 2024, heading into 2024, they did that shit all year long. They had those 5 tight ends on the active roster, on the 53-man roster, not on the game day roster, of course, but on the 53-man roster the whole way through. And I still don't understand why they did that. Benjamin says, so 8 receivers. Didn't we have like 5 tight ends one time? Yeah, literally the whole way through last year. I think that there are a couple of different things. There are a couple of different things that you have to take into consideration. They may make decisions that are confusing to all of us externally, but they'll have their reasons for why. So we'll reserve judgment. I'm just going to tell you what I think is most likely to happen based on the information that's available to us at this particular time. Mike Bell says they should have had all 5 tight ends on the line last year. Yeah, I know. That's also something that was very confusing to me. Eric Alonso says Josh Wiley needs to get the boot. Like Wiley. Wiley wasn't a part of the initial wave of cuts today. If Wiley's on the roster tomorrow, I would again be stunned. That would be surprising. Do you have to leave yourself open to the possibility that he could be? Sure, but that would be an upset. It would be a significant upset at this point. All right, let's see what Robert has for in case you missed it. Right after I remind you that the best place to get a workout in is True Math Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMathFitness.com for your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. True Math goes above and beyond to make sure that you achieve your fitness goals. I am not going to be able to make my True Math Fitness workout this week because I booked a last-minute trip to Munich, Germany today. And I'm leaving Friday morning, as a matter of fact, to take advantage of my last weekend of freedom before football takes over all of our lives. At this point in time, it means I will miss the bulk of week 1 in college football, but I know Lucas and Robert will pay close attention to it. When I get back Tuesday, we'll be ready for a full work week of regular season football leading up to week 1 for me in Denver, and that's the most important thing. But True Math Fitness gives me the tools to succeed on the road, no matter where I am in the world. At this point in time, they can do the same for you. TrueMathFitness.com for more details. All right, Robert, what you got?
Yes, tomorrow will be the 6th best day of the NFL calendar as roster cuts will continue. We will see who will hit waivers. Are you interested in the best days of the year, in my opinion, ranked?
Sure, go
ahead. With the NFL draft would be number 1. Number 2 is the start of the NFL season. Number 3 is free agency. Number 4 is the combine. Number 5 is the Super Bowl. Number 6 is waivers. My support is unwavering. I love you so much. A lot of people have already been released. A lot of big names. A lot of fans names that Titans fans may have already seen. So our question for in case you missed it today is: have there been any players released that you would like the Titans to be interested in? You can tell that I came up with that title because it sounds like a regular person and not a grammatical Nazi like Buck. So a couple of the names just to remind you guys.
Grammar Nazi?
Yeah, you were a stickler for the way things sound. Maybe not a grammar Nazi. Maybe just like a grammar Mussolini or something. A couple of the names.
Don't call me a Nazi after I've just told everybody I booked a trip to Germany. All right.
Oh, you're the one that brought it up again. Now they're not going to let you in. They're going to be like, hold on.
Special. No, they're not going to let me in because I'm half Arab. That's why. If they were going to keep me out, that's why they'd keep me out.
Some of the names released today. Former Broncos running back Audric Estime, Lions offensive lineman Dan Skipper, who came up in a conversation with us on the radio show last week when we talked about who are the best 6 men on Detroit offensive line or on offensive lines in general. And Dan Skipper came up.
Did I miss that conversation? Where was I for that?
I think Ben was there. Maybe I can't remember where we were, honestly.
We're having that talk. Anyway.
Hendon Hooker. Also a release from the Detroit Lions. Kind of a surprise for Vols fans who were orange-tinted glass about his career. But Dan Campbell said last week he could use a change in scenery, and it kind of seems like Detroit is going to give him that. While we're on the quarterback subject, Kyle Trask having an injury settlement. He'll revert to Tampa Bay's injured reserve and then be released. And Kyle McCord with the Philadelphia Eagles, who was a 6th-round draft pick out of Syracuse, former Ohio State quarterback, who didn't look bad, but they had a need at backup quarterback after figuring out Dorian Thompson-Robinson was also a scrub. So who are the people? Who are the players Who are the anyone that trips y'all's trigger? But I'll ask you first, Buck.
There's going to be a lot of conversations about Hendon Hooker. He's objectively not good in the NFL. Like Kyle Allen beating you out for a backup quarterback job in the year of our Lord 2025 is crazy.
I mean, and then think about Teddy Bridgewater signing there. Didn't he sign there last year? And then he was instantly the backup.
Was retired coaching a Miami high school team to a national championship, wrapped up his national championship season, and jumped on the Lions roster like, I don't know, was that past the divisional round?
It was late. It was super late in the season. I think it
might have been with a playoff game in hand.
Let me see.
That he
I'll
ended
look
up
it up.
joining the roster. And immediately became the backup because Hendon Hooker is just not up to NFL backup quarterback standards. I get that Vols fans root for him. It's like Restrepo. Like I get that he is one of the sources of the most success that Tennessee Volunteers fans have had in 15 years. I don't fault them at all for trying to assign a greater value to that person because they're emotionally attached to him. But he's not a good player in the NFL. And I mean, it's not just preseason example. How rarely do you hear a coach at a podium say, yeah, it'd be good to give him another, a fresh start. That's like, just take him around back and put him down already type of stuff. Like that's insane that you would be comfortable as a head coach saying that at a podium about a quarterback that you spent a third round pick on. That's the other thing. I saw do you know Ted Wynn at The Athletic? He does film breakdowns for The Athletic. Does really
WYNN or
no, like the Vietnamese spelling of Wynn.
Oh, yes. I do know what you're talking about. Yes, like NGUYEN. Yes.
Yeah. So Ted tweeted, quote tweeted the news item about Hendon Hooker getting released and said that Tennessee offense puts skill players in a developmental hole. And there's no disputing. Like Darnell Wright is succeeding as a top 10 pick on the Chicago Bears offensive line. But if you talk about Jalen Wright, I'm surprised is going to make the roster in Miami. It seems like he was not the better running back. Is it Ollie Gordon that's sitting behind him on the depth chart, if I remember correctly?
Yes, Ollie Gordon. Yeah. Oklahoma State.
So I think that, when you look at Cedric Tillman, Jalen Hyatt, Jalen Wright, all these skill guys, we'll see what happens with the two that were drafted out of Tennessee this year specifically. You've got Dylan Sampson, the running back, who I believe is in Cleveland. And there was another skill player from Tennessee.
Dante Thornton with the Raiders.
But Dante Thornton is on record because I retweeted Ted and immediately Vols fans filled the mentions just bitching and moaning like, what a bad take. You don't know shit. This, that, and the other, being Vols fans. God bless you. Like, it's only this person's job to study X's and O's and talk to coaches for a living, but he doesn't know shit. You're right. So, instead of arguing with Vols fans on Twitter, which was correct, Ted had an article ready from allfortennessee.com. Dante Thornton shares how difficult it is for Tennessee receivers to get drafted because of the offense that they play. It's a player who just got drafted this year explaining, this offense doesn't necessarily help us be prepared for what it is that we're going to be asked to do at the professional level. Like, it's reality. It is the reality of the situation. It doesn't mean that they can't succeed after a period of time. Like maybe Jalen Hyatt turns into something for the Giants. Maybe Cedric Tillman turns into something for the Browns. But they're behind the eight ball at that point. And, any advantage or any disadvantage that you have coming into the NFL, it's really hard to make up that ground that way when there's so many dudes competing for those jobs. What are you smiling about?
I already put in a poll for tomorrow's show. What was the worst draft pick, Will Levis or Hendon Hooker? Because what is it? What is it?
It's probably Hooker.
You got nothing. You got dip out of him in the NFL. He in the last season, he played in 3 games, tossed 9 balls, had 6 completions for 62 yards. That's it. But Will Levis playing, he got you Cam Ward. So I don't know. You're playing little violins for both people, but
Hendon Hooker might be the worst draft pick there because he's just. I mean, Levis. They traded a third to draft him in the second. So technically, you gave up 2 draft picks to draft Will Levis, and Hendon Hooker only cost you the one.
For one, yeah,
But
you got to make the pick though, is what NFL people are going to say. It's like, so it's really one pick. It was a third for a second and a future.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so you got a player, but you lost another. So I understand what you're saying, but I don't know, man.
It's an interesting conversation to have. I don't know what the right answer is.
And maybe that's another question, because like, what is worse, to be so bad that NFL coaches don't even trust you to play, or to be NFL coaches to trust you to play and then you suck abysmally? Because I was looking at Levis's numbers flatly, like stat lines, like, okay, I was like, oh, okay, hell yeah. His total career, he's almost got 4,000 passing yards and he's 21-16. But then you don't notice that he has 17 fumbles. He's lost the ball 34 times. Like, with 21, I think he has 1 rushing touchdown, so 22 touchdowns. So like, what is worse? And also, Vols fans should thank the Titans for not drafting Hendon Hooker, because from a passionate fan, from someone who will hate very hardly, if Hendon would have came here and been thrust in the same position that Will was, he probably would have been like a beached Will anyway. And your opinion of Hooker, would have changed in order, like all the way over here. So they did you a favor by not making you hate Hendon Hooker. You could love him from afar and be like, shoo, that's the one that got away. But do not bring him in here and burst that bubble. Remember Hendon as he was, not as he is. But there are, to say that, if they wanted to upgrade backup quarterback, or at least wanted to upgrade Trevor Siemian, there are options out there to do so. That's not the sexiest thing to say. Oh, waivers, yeah, we got a new guy that's never going to play, and if he does, we're shit out of luck anyway. But that's the name of the game we're playing.
That's the fun. It's always fun to do the in retrospect conversations around draft picks, isn't it? Like, especially when you've had as many shitty ones. I mean, the Titans have been an unholy mess. And you know, Ray Carthon got fired for a couple of different reasons, but like, Ray Carthon's drafts are not horrendous. I mean, they're not John Robinson in comparison to the John Robinson situation, horrendous. But like JC, Skoronski, I mean, Tajay, I don't know what you do with Tajay. Levis is obviously a mark against.
It's kind of a wash for Tajay.
I'm not bent out of shape about Colton Dowell and Jaquan Jackson. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Flyers, man.
They have it. Like, Ray Carthon wasn't great, but there are things here at least to allow them to build towards the future because of Ray Carthon. Calvin, whether you agreed with the contract or not, Calvin Ridley, Lloyd Cushenberry, what's happening here?
I was playing with a cord with my toes, and I pulled my webcam off its stand. Just putting a cord in between my toes. And then I was like, oh, wait, can I? Oh, that's the right one. Anyway, damn, there's something else I was going to tell you.
Chosen says quickly, just goes to show what a clown of an owner we have. Carthon brought culture, something we don't have now. No.
See, he brought talent. I don't think you could say he brought culture.
There was no culture with the Titans roster last year. They threw a bunch of shit into a locker room and hoped it became a team, and it didn't. Like,
and to be fair, they really don't have culture now. Like, they're still building it. Like,
the one thing that they added this offseason, Cam Ward is trying to break them of their loser behavior, like, collectively. So they're not a bunch of. There are players on this roster that have never had a winning season. It's crazy. Like, there are players on this roster that have never had a winning season. Cam Ward has to come in here and grab them by the shoulders and shake them and say, no, we win now. We win. You're a winner. Shut up. Because they've just been a bunch of losers. They've just been a bunch of sad sack, sorry-ass losers. And now Cam Ward, I don't know if Cam Ward's going to be able to fix all of it, but, like, at least he's got the right mindset. Like, Will was doing too much at every turn. You know what I'm saying? Like a generational run of bad decision making across the board. Like, that cannot be the head of the snake if that's your quarterback situation. Like, at least Cam's got some juice that way. But yeah, it turns out the organization that you root for does a lot of dumb shit across the board. And yes, you could probably point most of it at the owner or the controlling owner and say, yeah, she doesn't know what she's doing, or at least she hasn't picked a plan that she wants to stick by yet. And we still don't know if she's going to do that this year. I guess we'll just all have to hold on to our butts and find out.
On the way out, I did remember what I was wanting to share with you guys. So when you're seeing these names and you're like, oh, I'd really like the Titans. Oh, I remember they said that the Titans had the #1 pick in the waiver order, so they can pick up any of these guys they want. That is only for players who do not have 3 years of vested interest in the NFL, who have played enough games. So when you see, like, for example, DeAndre Carter was let go by the Browns. Big former great returner. He's like 31 years old now. He would not be subjected to waivers. If a team wanted to sign him, they would have to reach out to him outright. So Audric Estime is subjected to waivers because he's only played 1 year in the NFL. So when you're seeing these guys, it's worth noting or looking up if you want to know, hey, how many games has this guy played in the NFL? Is he subjected to waivers? I saw a lot of Titans fans saying Mike Hilton, the former Bengals nickel corner, he will be a free agent. The Titans cannot add him. Well, they could, but they would have to.
But they'd have to get into a legit money conversation, and that they have turned their nose up at those basically all offseason, like whether it be Zadarius Smith or Preston Smith or guys that were out there post draft free agency. They have balked a lot at because the way that a member of the front office put it to me at when we were on that 10-day road trip is it's tough for a lot of guys to go from making $12 million to $2 million. Like dudes struggle with that, understandably so. Like if I'm making $12 million, bet your ass I'm not working for $2 million.
I don't know. If I made 12, I might sit on it. I might just be like, 2? Oh, yeah, I'm still eating microwavable Kraft mac and cheese anyway. Don't matter. Make a damn to me.
You're the Gronk of sports media. Then you're going to live off your endorsement money and not spend a dime of your NFL money, are you?
It is worth noting that those players' prices will be coming down because just like any other job, like the job market is saturated with talent now. So like the jobs have been spoken for, and a guy that cost $5 million yesterday might cost $2.5 million today, just because there are a finite number of spots. And if you would like to make money this year, you might have to make a consolation on your part about your compensation. So,
I'm already dreading what the replies are going to look like when you put that poll out from my Twitter account about who's the worst draft pick, Hendon Hooker or Will Levis.
Yeah, but it's going to be good. You're going to have Vols fighting in there. We're going to have great replies.
I already have them just because I retweeted Ted shitting on the offense.
Yeah, I'm going to keep hammering it home. That's what happened. Okay, Vols fans, y'all can't bitch. When you're a good school, people are going to find things and pick at you. You just got to be willing to be like, shut up. I'm not dealing with it. You think anybody talks shit to me about ECU? No, because they're nobody. You are somebody. That's why somebody gonna pick on you. So just hell, even if it's true.
Me?
Yeah. Not the consequences of my actions. Let me go smoke a cig. I'll talk.
Now, if I wanted to be a real asshole and tell people how big of somebody I am, I'd give them my itinerary for Europe this weekend. But even just saying that,
you're a real bitch.
But a rich one. Don't you ever forget it, Mother Bleeper. All right, that's going to do it for us tonight. We appreciate you guys hanging out here with us. We will do primetime tomorrow. I'll be here with you. We'll react to the full initial roster cut situation. We'll do the radio show tomorrow on from 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone. Who do we have on the show tomorrow? We have Jason Fitz on the show tomorrow. That will be a good time. Do we have something else going on tomorrow, Robert, that I'm forgetting about? Is there anything in particular?
Oh, no.
We'll have giveaways. Maybe if somebody remembers to fill the prize bucket, we'll see. But we have a lot of different things that we will look forward to hanging out with you guys. We'll have more roster cuts that'll come down during the radio show. We'll make sure we give them the appropriate roster cut treatment as we did today. For those of you who do listen to the radio show from 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone, Benjamin Buck says, Jason Fitz, that guy from your other job that pays so well. Well, I have 3 companies that pay me currently, between A to Z, Cumulus, which owns 104.5 The Zone, and Fox. So, yes, I do host the Fox Sports show nationally with Fitzy on a weekend. But all three of my jobs are very lucrative at this point in time, which is how I can afford to just pick up and go to Munich for a weekend. Anyway, see you guys tomorrow on 104.5 The Zone, 10 a.m.
Go home! Go home! Go home! You're embarrassing Nashville! Go